All right, Chair Lesch, would you like to move your bill to get it before the committee?
I would, Madam Chair.
All right, Chair Lesch moves his bill to be laid over for inclusion into the Data Practices Omnibus Bill. So now we have the bill before us. Chair Lesch, please tell us about your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. This bill prohibits employers from forcing or coercing their employers or job applicants into providing access to their personal social media accounts, except under a limited set of circumstances that are found in Subdivision 2. It also prohibits employers from taking or threatening to take action against an employee for refusing to disclose this information. That's in Subdivision 3. Now, employers may access information about an employee that is publicly available. So if you got your site up but anyone can see it, that's fine. It's in the public domain. Or to comply with state or federal law, for example, security clearance, et cetera, to request or require an employer or applicant to share specific content that has been reported to the employer for purposes of ensuring compliance with legal or regulatory requirements or to investigate certain allegations. Also to prohibit an employee from using a personal account for business purposes, and to prohibit an employee from accessing or operating a personal account during business hours while on business property. So the bill provides an enforcement mechanism which allows an employee to take legal action for damages or equitable relief. Members, this bill is something that is needed in the digital age. A lot of people are living a substantial portion of their lives on the interwebs, and that means people can find out a lot more about you than they used to with a click of a button, and we should not be allowing employers into our private lives that way. We don't let our employers into our homes or our bedrooms. We should not let them into our digital lives without permission. So, and I have here Mr. Ben Feist with the ACLU of Minnesota, who can talk more about it.
Welcome back, Mr. Feist. Go right ahead.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Ben Feist, Legislative Director with the ACLU of Minnesota. Thank you, Representative Lesch, for bringing this bill forward and to the committee for hearing it this evening. Over the past several years, there's been a strong bipartisan consensus that we need to empower Minnesotans to take control of their privacy and bring our digital privacy laws into the 21st century. We believe that every person should have the right to decide who they want to share personal, private information with. Privacy is not about keeping secrets. It's about maintaining control over our own lives. Today, Minnesotans are as likely to use a social media or other personal online account to communicate to a selective audience as they were to use telephone a generation ago. It's a popular forum for the exchange of ideas, and personal information will be compromised if employees and prospective employees know they may be forced to provide employers with access to these accounts. This bill creates an appropriate balance by prohibiting employer access unless one of the number of exceptions applies, which we think is the reasonable way to go for our state. With that, happy to answer any questions.
All right, great. Members, do you have any questions? Representative Johnson.
Madam Chair, Representative Lesch, I want to thank you. Overall, I agree to a lot of the concepts of this bill. I just was sitting here thinking that there might be some exceptions where it may be needed to have that information. I can think of a couple of situations where it's a high security type and a real thorough background needs to be done for the hiring. I'm just wondering if there's any exceptions in the bill to that.
Well, Madam Chair and Chair Johnson, I think those are exceptions under Subdivision 4-2, or there's one other subdivision. But to comply with federal law, so a security clearance or something like that, it would be. And, you know, the folks that I know that have either secret or top secret security clearance, I mean, the hoops they have to jump through to do that, they pretty much know that they're like, I mean, there is no privacy. If you've got a secret clearance, you're an open book, and that's the way that they want it and is what it is. But I agree with you. I believe that the exceptions crafted in here should be adequate. We haven't received any indication that they're not.
Representative Johnson.
Madam Chair, Representative, I just wanted to make that clear because there is some occasional circumstances where that might come into play, and I don't want to have this law be a problem.
Chair
Madam Chair, Chair Johnson, you know, if that were to pop up, I would be one of the first who would want to offer an amendment to make that available.
Any other questions from members? Representative Herr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chair Lesh, just a quick question. So I know that we define this in social media account, but, and maybe that's not for us here to interpret that, that's for the courts, but could there be potentially an issue of someone saying like a LinkedIn is not social media, that's a professional network? Are we concerned about any kind of like definition around that word?
Chair Lesh or Mr. Feist?
Okay, well, you know what, Madam Chair, maybe we could just defer to research, the smart people, and just have them say, you know, whether or not LinkedIn should, I think the definition is pretty vague, but let's see what
Ms.
they say.
Muller.
Chair and members, the definition of social media account in the beginning of the bill is fairly broad. I think it would include a LinkedIn account and other kinds of accounts similar to that.
Any other questions from members? Does anyone from the audience wish to testify on House File 1196? Oh, Representative Johnson.
Madam Chair, Representative Lesh, just to clarify, your intent is that LinkedIn would be covered?
Madam Chair, Chair Johnson, yes, LinkedIn should be covered.
All right, anybody else from the audience that wishes to testify on House File 1196? All right, doesn't look like there's any further discussion of the bill, so hearing none, Chair Lesch's bill, House File 1196, is laid over for possible inclusion in the Data Practices Omnibus Bill.